It's about letting go of control, because that, I've always found it's, in every group there's a few people who can't do that, who go, no, but I want to edit this bit, and it's like, no, we've got to let that, happen as a group, and it takes a bit longer, does take a bit longer, but ultimately I think the quality level can be a lot higher, because you have got 3 or 4 people coming in on each decision.
Yes.
I mean, part of this discussion is actually probably based in the whole thing of actually how in dance and performance the author or the star is still quite imperative, and as you know, a lot of dance companies or theatre companies will be named after the main choreographer or the main theatre director. So I won't name any because it's not particularly relevant, but there's quite, I've never had a company called Ghislaine Boddington and Dancers, but I wouldn't ever do that, but there are a lot out there like that. So and actually now what I do realise that it's even outside the use of digital technologies with processes, dance has shifted a long way on that line.
Mm-hmm.
Even big choreographers like William Forsyth and I think in the Place Prize this year with 200 different applications, there was a complete acknowledgement that nearly every choreographer now in the world is aware that they are using the improvisation from the dancers to make the work.
Mm-hmm.
So there's far more crediting of, even if it still says William Forsyth is choreographer, he will say in collaboration with his dancers. We go further and we're saying this is a total group situation, and I think it needs to go further, and I think there needs to be a lot more honesty about the fact that a lot of authored work is not solo authored, and that's where my push comes from on it.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas people like Lloyd Newson, for example, has always had DV8 and has always had in collaboration with dancers since he started his work. So it does wide ranging, but there's a lot more acknowledgement now of the fact that if you're working in a group process, everybody in that process is adding to the idea. Everybody is working together on it.
Yep.
It doesn't belong to one person. You can't walk out of the studio and say that was all my work today.
Yep.
And actually it's quite a relief. Don't you find that? It's a kind of like weight off your shoulders.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because there's always a sense, I think, whenever you're making anything that you're stealing or borrowing or whatever it is, because so much. I think most creative endeavour is about repurposing interesting things you've seen. And doing that in a very honest way in an environment where everyone's going, well, this is what we're doing collectively. I find very refreshing.
Yeah.
But I also think, and one of the things that maybe didn't make clear is that I think from the digital point of view, whether it's dance or something completely different, I think finding a collaborative environment that is a long way away from your kind of safe territory is very interesting, and I'm certain that the reason that this piece was as well received as it was and helped us to move on so quickly into other areas wasn't because it was masterfully put together. It was because it had a kind of freshness based on the collision of those two worlds.
And the challenge that you hit within it.
And I think it's certainly having come from a background in technology where we all used to sit around computers all the time and look over each other's shoulders and go, well, that's interesting, that's great. It did really refresh that kind of creative process.
And what we now need is a lot more acknowledgement of those kind of processes from curators, from funders, and from critics, really, who actually are still quite hung up on the individual artist's name. So I think it's still quite a struggle to get a group project under a group project name into many curatorial situations. They want the star artist, they want the named artist. Funding bodies, many of them still, even though there is now more acknowledgement and funding of group processes than there was, of course, there's still funding officers completely at a loss of understanding actually how these processes work, how people get in a room together and make it happen. I think there's, we have conversations with funders which are just like that, and we've been doing this stuff for years, and even showing them PowerPoints and doing the stuff, it's just, they just don't get it, in that sense. They want to go, yes, but who made it? Yes, but who actually is the lead artist? No, but you must have a master doing the, master classes. It's like, no, everybody teaches, and everybody's teaching each other, and there's a lot of skills exchange happening, and we had to struggle past that in our first series of workshops with the Arts Council funding, that we weren't going to have master classes, that actually everybody that was coming from the 22-year-old to the 40-year-old were all teaching in together and doing it together. But we do now need, I think, a much clearer acknowledgement of that, and also an acknowledgement of people who really are working collaborative, like we've been discussing, not just using the word collaboration or multidisciplinary or co-created, because actually they're keywords of the moment and they get you through certain tick boxes. Because there's, and Giles is laughing, you know exactly what I mean, because there's a lot of people saying, and it's very shallow collaboration. I think I kind of said that in my presentation. I've got, you know, and actually as a curator too, because I do a lot of curatorial practice, I pretty much can know, watching a piece on stage, whether it has been a shallow collaboration or a deep collaboration. I think it really does show.
I think absolutely. Yeah.
So, anyway, we've probably gone on enough, haven't we?